My name is Crystal, and I run ArmyWife101.com. It's a lifestyle blog for military spouses. So I talk about travel, parenthood, manning the domestic home front, life, and all that kind of stuff. But one of my biggest topics is travel and product reviews and things like that.
So what did you do? First of all, did they approach you to attend this conference?
The niche that I'm in, the military lifestyle community, the conference itself is for any business person, but I guess whoever is involved in this, has some bearings with the military and really just supports the military, and they really want to support veteran entrepreneurs, mil spouse entrepreneurs. And so lucky for me, our area or our community is really small.
Right.
And so I was invited that way, I guess just through word of mouth. I just reached out to hotels who had a military promotion. So first and foremost, what most people don't know is that if you have a legitimate blog and you're blogging consistently and you have a following, then you're usually considered media. Brands are already taking into account that bloggers are media. I don't ever want to disrespect journalists. I don't consider myself a journalist. I barely consider myself a writer. I am considered media. And so most brands already have forms on their site. When you go to their media page or their press page or anything like that, or their media kit, they'll have a section where it'll say, if you'd like to apply for a media stay or a complimentary stay, fill out this form. So that's the great thing about working with hotels in terms of being a blogger or being media and pitching them. Normally they're pretty aware that media already does this.
Right.
And so I was able to do that from one of the hotels, and the first hotel I stayed in was the Swan and Dolphin Resort, which was on the Disney Boardwalk. So I thought that was amazing. I stayed there for 2 days complimentary, and then I stayed there. I was going to stay the third day, but then I got offered another stay, but they offered me a media rate, which most hotels will do, which is great because the media rate is a lot cheaper than the regular rate. And then one of the days I stayed at a 2-bedroom condo, which was really nice. It had full kitchen in it. So, it was a good experience because we got a little bit of everything. We got to stay in a hotel. We did the 2-bedroom condo. And then on the last and final day, we did a big 4-bedroom house in Kissimmee, Florida. And I did the same thing. I pitched the brand and I said, this is what I'll give you. And so you're probably like, okay, you pitched the brand. So what does that mean?
Yes. What did you just call them up and say, and what do they get out of it? I mean, yes, you'll be there. Do they expect you to then write on your blog and do a review?
Mm-hmm. Could I really write a hotel and say, hey, let me stay there because I have a following? You still want to be in tune with what you're writing about, what your blog is about. So I don't recommend everybody just going to start, hey, I'm pitching hotels because I have a blog, because what are you going to write about if your blog is about living the green life?
Right.
Now, if you wrote a hotel that everything in their hotel is recycled and made of recycled wallpaper and all kind of stuff, then that would be a tie-in to your kind of content, because people who are earth friendly may be looking for places that appreciate recycling or what have you.
Right.
So for me, my reasoning is that I talk about travel a lot, and I know military folks are always looking for places that offer promos for them. And so when I pitch these companies, that's literally what I say. I give an introduction. I tell them whether I've stayed there before or whether I've been close to staying there before. And then I really talk about what I can do for them. And I flat out say, listen, I have a very large, loyal following, because large doesn't mean a lot unless your following is engaged and loyal to you. Mm-hmm. I'll tell them I have a large, engaged, loyal following. This is where the biggest part of my following is on Facebook. I'll give you a full blog post. I'll give you 1 Periscope. I'll do a total of 6 live tweets, meaning I'll tweet live while I'm staying there, not just some advertising type tweets once I'm done, but literally like, hey, I'm sitting in the restaurant right now checking this out. Like one of my tweets was, oh, I love hotels where Wi-Fi is easy to get on, because I've been to hotels before where like the Wi-Fi is like
it's horrible. Yeah.
This is literally a basic email. I go to the hotel or whatever it is, and I'll talk about other places, but I'm using the hotels as an example now. I go to their page. I look for either a press release or their media page, which usually has their media kit, and I look for their contact. Usually it's another PR agency, or they'll have in-house marketing or something. And I write that person and I title it, whatever the hotel name is, and working with Army Wife 101. That usually comes to me, because they're like, who is this assuming they're going to work with us? That's what I'm hoping they're thinking. And And then I just literally, I literally can recite what I write. Of course, I personalize it for everybody because every situation is different, depending on the type of hotel.
Or are you telling them encouraging them to check out your blog, or are you just giving them your media kit? Do they get your media kit at this point, and what they'll get from you, the tweets and the Facebook posts and everything? Do you give them everything all at once, and here's my kit, and let me know?
Sometimes I'll send my media kit, but a lot of times that's not really warranted. A lot of times, sometimes I'll mention my numbers within my email, my traffic numbers. So I mention the numbers that are important. I don't feel like, you need to mention every single following you have on every single platform because it really doesn't matter. But some of these places really don't have much of a following unless they're huge. You know what I mean? So they're looking for you to send people over to them. So if you can kind of show them that, then they're okay. And then of course I'll mention my blog stats, but a lot of times you don't really have to do that. I think if they see that, even if your numbers are not high, if they see that you really have a reason why it would be a good fit for you and them to work together, I think they're always down for organic, like evergreen content. And I'll tell them, this is what I'm willing to do for you. And that concept, when I talk about what I give the hotels, like in terms of tweets and Instagrams and Facebook shares, is what I do for any brand. I'll approach them for, let's say, a 1-month campaign. And that usually will include 1 to 2 blog posts, 2 Instagram shares, 2 Facebook shares, 4 tweets. And then I package it up like you would anything else. This is how much tweets cost, this is how much Facebook, and this is how much the total campaign costs.
Tony says that many of these big brands have a specific budget for these types of marketing opportunities. Have you ever encountered that where people are saying, well, no, this is a set price that we typically pay for bloggers, or have people been open to negotiation?
Yeah, he's right. I mean, in terms of that, they do definitely have budgets. Yeah, we get negotiable all the time. And that's why it's important to really know what you're worth in terms of your pricing, what your timing is worth, what your audience is worth. And then from there, decide if you're going to scale up a little bit so that when they come back and they want to negotiate down, you still are meeting the mark that you want to meet. So if you charge, $800 normally for a blog post, because there are bloggers who charge $1,000.
Just for one post.
Oh, just for one post. Yeah.
Yes. But then, Tony's saying because you have a relationship and trust with the audience, you can request that rate. Yeah, it might have taken you an hour, but in an hour you've impacted and just, maybe email, tweet it, shared it with your followers. And how many followers have read that and said, oh, well, Crystal knows what she's talking about. So, it was quick for you. It was simple. Yeah. But for them, they need that connection. So it was worth it. And $500 was cheap.
Right. But I mean, I remember doing it, for $75. I mean, of course, and this is what I tell people, a lot of people now, because blogging has become super saturated. I'm never in denial of that. It has. And so I tell people, you really got to come in with a purpose. You can't come in being a fashion blogger. I mean, you can, but you got to have something that's different, because there's a million other people out there taking pictures with their $500 Canon cameras doing the same thing. And posting on Instagram looking amazing and doing all this stuff. You have to have something that makes you stand out. I don't want people to get the idea that you could just become a blogger and then tomorrow you can charge $500 for a post, because there was a time where I was charging $75 for a post. And I thought I was charging too much then, because I was like, well, who's going to pay me $75 to write, like, you know what I mean? It just seemed
right. It just didn't seem right. Yeah.
It didn't seem right. And now, when I see people charge $200 for a post, I'm like, clutches invisible pearls, like, that's all you. I'm offended that you let yourself get janked like that.
The main point I wanted to say was you were talking about obviously pitching, and sometimes we're timid with our prices when we pitch, but you're in a position of power. That's the key thing, because you've got the audience, you've got the relationship with the audience, and a lot of these marketing leads are sat behind desks trying to do outbound marketing. They're trying to push their ads out, they're trying to reach an audience where you've got the relationship with the audience. You would just say, well, hey guys, come and check this out. And, they will pay for that. They will pay a big wedge of money for that type of exposure. And also because it's personal, because it's not coming from them, it's validated because you're saying, guys, listen, this is great, check it out. You're validating that there's social proof. So again, that 10x is the value of the marketing you're doing. So don't be timid with your prices. When he said, $75 for a blog post or $500 for a blog post, you can request a lot more than that. And I'm not just speaking to you guys. I'm speaking to the audience. Let's not be timid with our pitches, because you've built the audience. Even if it's only 100 people on the mailing list, even if it's, however big your list is, you have got that relationship with them. You've got the trust. And when you say, yo, guys, go and check this out, that's 100 new clients or new click-throughs that company has got through your audience. And that's valuable. That's extremely valuable. So we need to really leverage that.
What is it that you do, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
Okay, so yeah, I've got a personal blog called TonyLBrown.com, and I basically help business owners to systemize their businesses. So we'll look at the business, see what they're currently doing, and see, like you mentioned about time for the podcast. Well, what I would do is sit with you and we'd look at, okay, how can we create a system where, like I said, you can drop that in a Dropbox folder and you wake up in the morning and your podcast is on iTunes. The podcast, as though it was a project from start to finish. And then what I've done, I'll pitch that to a company who I knew this will be ideal for their target market. And I pitched it to them. I pitched it to them at a 5-figure number.
Wait,
and they
pause.
agreed.
Okay. Hold the phone. This podcast doesn't even exist yet.
That's crazy.
No.
Okay, but you thought that it would work well and it would have an audience. Is that what happened? Or
Yeah. So because I've already got 2 podcasts that I run, and I was nominated for the Best Business Podcast at UK Podcasters Award this year. I didn't win, but I was nominated.
Congratulations.
So when I'm pitching them, I'm saying, I already run this podcast. I've reached out to this audience. This is what I do. I was recently nominated for the Best Business Podcast at the UK Podcasters Award. So straight away they're thinking, okay, he's not a newbie. He knows what he's doing. And then what I've done, I laid out, this is what the podcast is going to cover. This is who it's for. And what I offered to them was exclusive sponsorship opportunity for season 1, which would be 12 episodes. Each week we'd launch an episode. And they was like, okay, let's talk. And what I've done, I mapped out all my costs, including my time to record the podcast, all the editing fees, all the fees to cover the virtual assistants who will do the post creation, editing, etc., marketing, right the way through. And like I said, it was around, it's just about the 10 grand mark. And I'm talking 10 UK pounds, not $10,000, 10 UK sterling. So probably about $12,000. And they didn't really blink. It was like, well, okay, we'll have a look at it. And they got back to me, and the deal we agreed was better than the deal I offered, because what I did get was access to their content creation team. I got access to their marketing team, and I also was able to get the CEO of the company on as a co-host.
Wow.
And you know what it's like, when you're chasing the dollars, sometimes your focus comes away from the value. Where when it's like, okay, the costs are covered, I'm going into this, and my sole focus is on how can I make this the best episode, I can make it. What can I draw in? What can I pull in? What can I talk about? What's the focus? And just focus on offering value.
And that's the great thing about having, influence and following. I mean, that's what they're calling bloggers now. It's like digital influencers.
You're kind of like a broker.
Yes. Like an agent of sorts. Yes.
You're an agent. You're a blogger's agent.
Yeah. And that's what it is. That's why that's what I've been putting my site. I have my blog, of course, and then I have crystalspell.com. And that's what I talk about. You create, I negotiate, because that's what I literally do. I give you more time to focus on the creation of your content, and then I handle your money part for you.
Is that your tagline? Because that was pretty crafty.
It is.
You create, I negotiate.
Thought of it like at 9 o'clock at night. I was like, hey, I like that.
No, I was going to say, you need that site stickiness. They want to know, well, what are people coming to? And they might actually take a look and check you out and say, well, this doesn't look legit or doesn't look like a serious company or brand, because look at the website.
Look at the website. Yeah, exactly. You're right. And also, when it comes to new bloggers, me, I only blog maybe like once or twice a week now, but that's because I have 5 years worth of content. There's a lot for you to look at. But when you're a new blogger, and you're talking about, I want to make money, and I've had bloggers say this, and this is what I'm speaking from the experiences I've had. I've had bloggers who go, you've been blogging like not even 50 days, and you're like, well, nobody's coming to me. I'm not really making any money. But you don't, 2 months have went by and you have 6 blog posts. Do you know what I mean? You have to blog consistently. Maybe not even every day, but if your followers know that you blog on Tuesdays and Fridays, then darn it, Tuesdays and Fridays, you better have a blog post up. There's a show that comes on every morning on BET News 1. Apparently, there was somebody on there and they were talking about ways to get more sleep at night. Well, apparently this person who's on there really didn't give any life-changing tips, but someone who was watching the show in one of my groups, a bloggers group, had a great article about 5 ways to make sure you get more sleep at night. She tweeted it to the host, and then that host tweeted it to like his 400,000 followers.
Oh, that's
and
the best
she got
thing.
Can you imagine?
Yes, I can imagine.
Great. Yeah. So it just goes all into how, and you know, people are like, well, what does that have to do with anything? It has a lot to do with it because this is how you parlay stuff. This is how you gain credibility. All of that adds into when a brand wants to work with you. Even the brands that may not be familiar with bloggers, the one thing they're familiar with is, wow, she just got tweeted by this person. And she must have something going on that this person thought her stuff was important enough to tweet. That's something that I make sure I put in my pitch, that I follow all FTC disclosures. Brands love that because it lets them know, okay, this person is used to working with brands. She knows what she's doing. She's following all the legal, whatever, mumbo jumbo. Good. Makes you look good.
I am just getting started. I just went on YouTube maybe about 2 months ago. I had started it before, and then I was so busy in my job that I didn't have time to do it. So I'm really starting to do it now. I'm retired, so I'm looking for other ways to make money, And so I was looking at the YouTube and I said, well, heck, if they can do it, I can do it, And I put on some things, and all of a sudden I'm like, it's been like 2.5 months and I'm like over 1,000 now, just about. And
wow.
It could be presented in 2 lights. It can be presented in the sense of you're introducing product to people. Despite maybe their situation at that time, eventually everybody has to eat, so you know what I'm saying? So it's still relevant for them to know about it. 2, if you can't present it in that light, it can always be presented as is, this is a great thing to do. Companies are always looking for some kind of initiatives or charity type things to do. And a lot of them, when you go to their site, they have sponsorship contacts already. So most of them are prepared to donate product, and it's a matter of just reaching out.
I think big, I guess, and you have to think that way in order to make something out of yourself or do whatever you like. So I'm thinking some of the big companies now, do I write a letter to them? And like I said, include the FCC codes in there, for that. And do I just write a letter to them? Because at the end of the day, I'm either going to get yes or no. I'm going from being a professional in a suit and a tie, so to speak.
Right.
A person, with regular.
We haven't made less than $1 million annually since we've been in business. It's all public speaking. It's all seminars. And I started doing it online, and we're quite successful.
Now, and congratulations on your success, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Are you pairing up with any bigger brands in your work? Are you doing anything like that? We're looking to do something like that.
Well, it's a parallel. I have a lot of sponsors for my events, and sponsors are big players in my industry. And one thing when I'm looking for sponsors, I look at the newcomers, who's advertising, who is putting money out there to get their name known. I had a young nurse come up to me in one of my seminars recently and say, Mr. Ziegler, what can I do to get a sponsor? I've been after Pfizer, and Pfizer doesn't need publicity. I'd get in the trades and I'd get online and I'd find out who's the newcomer that's a competitor of Pfizer that's throwing money at the market, trying to get into the market. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. And you say you're in the automobile industry. What exactly, do you have a website that we can visit or?
Alpha Dog, DAWG, like Georgia Bulldogs, Alpha Dog, DAWG, blog.com.
Would go for number 1. If you're just starting out, make sure that your content is on point. Make sure that you are consistent and you're blogging every day, not only for your readers, but for brands, because they are looking for consistency. It says something about you. You have to always keep in mind that these brands are still $1 million companies. And if they're giving you if they're extending the offer to actually work with you, they need to know that they are putting their product and their brand in good hands, because you still are representing their brand at that point in some fashion or form. So certainly make sure that you're providing good aesthetic for the brand, because we're talking about pitching. Make sure that when you do your content and you write a piece or an article or you write a review, tweet it out to these brands. Don't just leave it at the blog, because we're not psychics and we don't know you exist. So make sure that you're going to the brands. If I have any kind of a brand name in there, if I mention a brand name, I'm going to tweet them and be like, hey, at so-and-so, check this out. Look what I did while, visiting your store. And also make sure that when you're approaching the brand and you're at the point where you're like, okay, I'm comfortable, and then I'm going to write these people an email, make sure that you focus really on what you can do for them, because they're going to be able to see the value if you can provide what you can do for them, and how it's going to benefit them, and how the two of you, meaning your brand and their brand, really connect with each other. So don't just go in there looking hungry, or as the young people say, thirsty, looking thirsty for free stuff. At the end of the day, yeah, we get it. Like, if you can go on a trip because you're already going on a trip and you can get them to provide you a free hotel, like in my case, that's great. But make sure that there is a purpose in why you're wanting to write about this hotel, because then they're not going to work with you again. And always keep in mind that the initial opportunity, that first opportunity, can lead to lots more paid opportunities to work together. So make sure that first chance they give you at working together, you make your best, you give your best and you're all in it. And don't fall into the trap. A lot of bloggers have gotten into this. Well, I'm not working for free. Well, no crap, Sherlock. We know that. I have no problem telling brands that they pay my bills and that I don't work for free. However, you have to be able to weigh your options. If you've got a multi-million-dollar brand saying, hey, we've got this campaign and no, we're not paying, but we're giving free product and what have you, believe me when I tell you that is their test to see if you are a good candidate to work with in the future. And the reason I know this is because I just did a commercial for a brand, and guess what? Yeah, they found me in one spot, but I had also did some prior work, not thinking anything about a commercial, just like, oh, okay, I'm doing this for the blog. And then all of a sudden, that's what happened. Okay. So definitely make sure that you're always giving your best, and don't, get so caught up in the hype of, because there's a lot of bloggers out there giving bad information. They're encouraging you to just automatically charge, and you can charge so much money. It shouldn't be that way, because brands can see through that you're just trying to charge, and they're not going to get any return. You cannot charge it's great to charge for your time, but you can't charge if they're absolutely going to get no ROI on what it is that they're coming to you for. So you keep those things in mind and kind of just work on those over the, course of the next 3 months to 6 months of your blogging. And I promise you that you'll begin to see a difference in how your interaction with brands turns out, and even your coin game, because that's the new term now too. You'll see the coins adding up in your pocket.
I can't thank you enough for sharing these tips. I hope that people are paying attention, walk away with these tips, and run with them all the way to the bank, because it was very generous of you for sharing this. It really was. It really was. Tell your friends, share this broadcast, please, and come back